I told my aunt she can't be at my child delivery, but she still went.
It's funny how that works.
Mm-hmm. So, quick backstory. I, 33 female, was pregnant at 19 with my first child. My mom was 41. My aunt was 43. They'd been estranged for almost a decade around the time I got pregnant. By the way, this comes from aggravating cat 5357. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, my mom was toxic in the controlling narcissistic mother way. My aunt was toxic in a substance and self-victimizing way. They were both unbelievably manipulating. They got the old 1-2 of familial diddly-do. Ugh. They were both unbelievably manipulative, and it's unfortunate that my cousins and I had them for mothers. My oldest cousin and I never knew our fathers, and our moms had us both at 21. They were always in competition with each other. My aunt had 2 kids. My mom only had me. My aunt was considered the pretty one. My mom was the smart one. My aunt was jealous that my mom had curves. My mom was jealous my aunt had their dad. It was a constant back and forth. Sounds healthy. Sounds like a lovely place to grow up. Sounds like it would not give you any trauma at all. Sounds like the trauma wouldn't continue into adulthood. The breaking point was when my aunt started drinking so much, she would show up at our house at 4 a.m. pounding on the door.
Ooh, police.
My mom essentially told her she'd mess her up if she ever came back. It sucked because I was very close to my aunt and cousins, but this was thematic for my mom's own family, especially at my expense. Now, to the story. When I found out I was pregnant, my mom was disappointed, to say the least. It was very unplanned, and I wasn't in a stable situation, so I completely understand why she felt that way. However, she decided this was the moment she would no longer be supportive. I saw my mom a total of 3 times during my entire pregnancy, and she, who had me under similar circumstances, allowed her disappointment to get in the way of her role as my mother. She would spend those few times telling me how she wasn't going to be a grandmother because she didn't want me to be in the situation I was in. So basically she's like, I can't believe you're getting into the same situation. I'm not gonna take care of you. She already had 3 step grandchildren. It hurt me to know that my mom had no intention of being there for me or for my own child, so I distanced myself. During that distance, my aunt caught wind of my pregnancy and reached out to me. I jumped at the chance to have any family step up to the plate. Even my stepsister from my mom's first marriage was more present than her own mother. Our parents had been divorced for over 10 years, and she planned my baby shower. I was invited over for a visit, so my boyfriend and I went over. And when we walked in, their living room was full of baby stuff. I had already had my baby shower, and she hadn't been invited because my mom was there. So she went ahead and went garage sale shopping and essentially stocked my entire nursery for me. I was absolutely grateful at this act of kindness, not realizing her history of manipulation. To this day, I am still very grateful for what she did, especially since I was able to give those things to friends who had kids, who gave them to others, who truly takes a village. However, I wasn't aware that her ulterior motive was access to the birthing room while I was in labor.
Oh, really? She had an ulterior motive, you say?
I had planned from the very beginning for my mom and my boyfriend to be there. You're only allowed 2 people, so those were the only 2 people on the planet I wanted in that room. Even if my mom didn't want the whole situation, she at least didn't argue with me on that aspect. So she's like, I don't really want to support you, but I will be there at the birth.
Well, that's good.
When I explained this to my aunt, she tried to manipulate me by bringing up the difficulties I'd expressed between my mom and me, but I held firm and I didn't budge on my answer. I told her she could visit while my mom wasn't there, just because I didn't want any drama surrounding the birth of my child. A few weeks later, which was a few weeks before my due date, I was told by my grandma that my aunt wanted all of the baby stuff back. The baby stuff that she had given out of the kindness of her heart.
You can't just take that back after you give it to the people who are having the child.
I wasn't all that shocked, but I was definitely pissed about it. I had been nesting since we got everything, and the nursery was all set, organized. I actually had so many baby clothes. I ran out of closet and dresser space. I had another friend's mom essentially go and do the same thing for me by going garage sale shopping, and she basically told me that she was super excited and wanted to help since my friend had also told her of my mom's attitude. I barely knew this woman. And again, I'm extremely grateful for her generosity. That being said, I told my grandma to tell my aunt that she is free to come to my apartment and go through every single item and find the ones that she bought in particular, but that my mom was going to be there to watch. Guess who didn't show up?
Stinker Pants didn't show up because it's going to take too much effort.
Fast forward to my labor. My mom, godmother, and boyfriend all told the front desk staff and nurses that my aunt was not allowed in any capacity in my room. Put I see you in the chat if you know where this is going.
Yeah, I can't
Put
imagine.
I see you in the chat.
I can't imagine where this is going.
She lost the privilege of visiting my baby in my eyes for saying what she said and thinking she had the right to dictate who I had in my room. My labor was pretty easy. I walked around the hospital for 6 hours, letting the contractions get stronger and stronger. My pain tolerance was baffling, but epidural is a godsend. I was even given Pitocin to help speed up the process. About 11:30 p.m., I get a phone call. My boyfriend answers. It's my aunt, and she sounds wasted because she has had a problem with drinking. She found out from my younger cousin, she would have been 16, that I was in labor, and she was frantically asking my boyfriend how things were going and started freaking out about how I was given Pitocin and how it could hurt the baby. While he's trying to get off the phone, I start to feel my daughter's head. At the same time, her heart monitor started going off like crazy, and several nursing staff come running into the room. Boyfriend finally ended up hanging up on her to call my mom, who left to have a cig. 5 minutes later, with a vacuum assist, my daughter was born, blue and not breathing. When she passed through the birth canal, the umbilical cord wrapped so tightly around her neck, she had to be pulled out immediately. There wasn't even time to consider a C-section. But 11:59 p.m., my beautiful daughter was born. And because of circumstances, my mom got her crap together and decided to be the best grandma she could be for her. Oh my God, that was a whirlwind. I thought the baby was going to not make it. I thought the baby was not going to make it. My daughter is now 13.
Nice.
And is perfectly healthy. The whole thing was crazy, and I was looking forward to going back to some level of normal as having a new baby to be responsible for can be. We were literally packing up on the last day when we heard a knock on our door. Lo and behold, who do you think it is, Dakota?
It's Santa.
Nope. It's the crazy aunt herself and my younger cousin. I don't have it in me to start an argument, and I was more focused on my miracle baby than being angry. And you should be focused on listening to this podcast every day by searching OK Storytime wherever you get your podcast. Apple Podcast, Spotify, wherever you get them. Just search OK Storytime. But she did try to start some crap over not being allowed in the birthing room. But my boyfriend, who usually didn't speak up, told her to back the F off because he didn't want her in the room either.
Nice.
Bop, bop, bop. Let's go.
Well, how did she get in? Wasn't she on the do not let in list?
I was more pissed off at the staff for not following the one instruction they were given by 3 different people, which was to not let this crazy, drunken aunt who is completely manipulative crash your birth.
You let the one person who couldn't come in, here she is.
But again, I was more grateful to be going home with my precious cargo than to be angry. Both my mom and aunt are deceased now, so the drama is gone, and I know exactly how a mother should act. And I have my stepnieces and nephews that I love dearly. Instead of the psycho witch aunt, I'm the crazy fun aunt. It just baffles me how toxic my family truly was when I look back. All I can do now is not repeat the vicious cycle. And we do have some comments and an update from OP. Comment 1, far out people be crazy. I hope there was at least one decent nurse at the hospital who blasted the others for not following your direct instructions regarding your aunt. My mother's a nurse, and I know if she was there, she would be the one blasting the others.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad in the end that you were okay, your child is okay, and that you don't have to deal with toxic family BS anymore. And OP replied, I can't remember if anyone did or did not, but I myself put a nurse on blast when I gave birth to my second child.
Blast.
I look way younger than I am, and I was 26, so most of the nurses and doctors thought it was my first child. At shift change, the new nurse checked my cervix. My first nurse stayed for a bit, and she was wonderful. And 10 minutes later, I tell her, I think the baby is coming, and she was just talking to my first nurse, snapped at me, and said, I just checked you. I blinked at her, cocked my head, and said, well, check again. She puts on a glove, rolling her eyes and huffing, reaches, and goes, oh, that's a head. And I shout back, no, really?
Oh, really? No way, but you just checked.
My epidural had worn off at that point, too, so I was already very angry. This child was born 15 minutes later, super healthy, no complications. The only complication was this witchy nurse and the fact that the epidural comes in latex boxes. Why? Took the pharmacy 2 hours after my epidural to run out and refill because of my allergy to latex. And we got one more comment and one more response. Comment 2, why was your aunt so desperate to be in the delivery room? OP replied, I genuinely don't know. I think she thought she could lord it over my mom. As they said, they were in constant competition, even when it came to us kids. Upon further reflection and thinking of this question, I believe she was trying to be the grandmother to my child since my mom expressed not wanting it. Oh, but not in a selfless way. Plus, back then, no matter what, I wanted my mom, and I think she didn't like that I wouldn't just give up on her. Had she lived longer than she did, she would have seen it happen eventually. And that's where that's.
Wow.
That is insane, insanely bad luck on those births. You got a blue baby on the first one, bad nurses on the second.
Well, I mean, healthy 13-year-old now.
Yeah, and a healthy baby.
But annoying, yeah.
Later too.